Today we'll discuss ISI's 2016 BSTET BMath paper, and this paper again has some wonderful questions. Now the first question is, the system of inequalities has how many solutions? So what we'll do is we'll add them all up, and if we'll add them all up, we can write a plus b plus c plus d minus a square minus b square minus c square and minus d square. It is greater than or equal to 1. Now we'll take everything on the right hand side. We can write a square plus b square plus c square plus d square minus a minus b minus c minus d plus 1, and it will be less than or equal to 0. Now what we'll do is we'll take these two terms together, and then we'll also take 1 by 4. So we'll write this as a square minus a plus 1 by 4 plus b square minus b plus 1 by 4 plus c square minus c plus 1 by 4 plus d square minus d plus 1 by 4 less than equal to 0. Now this is a square plus b square minus 2ab. So it will be a minus 1 by 2 square. In the same way, it will be b minus 1 by 2 square, c minus 1 by 2 square plus d minus 1 by 2 square, and it should be less than or equal to 0. Now when a, b, c, d are real numbers, then sum of squares of real numbers cannot be negative. So the only option that we will have here is all these terms, they should be 0. So this expression will be valid if and only if all these four expressions, they are 0. And in that case, we'll get this result that a equals b equals c equals d, and it must be equal to 1 by 2. So this system of inequality will have exactly one solution, and that's your option B. Now question number 2 is, if log 18 base 12 equals a, then log 16 base 24 is equal to what? Now what we'll do is we'll write this log 18 base 12 as log 18 base 2 upon log 12 base 2, and we'll take it equals to a. Now we can write 18 as 2 into 3 square. So we'll write this as log 2 into 3 square, and we'll write 12 as 2 square into 3, and it'll be equal to a. Now we'll use the property log m into n is log m plus log n, and then log m to the power n is n log m. So we can write log 2 base 2, which is 1, plus 2 log 3 base 2 upon 2 plus log 3 base 2, and it is equal to a. Now what we'll do is we'll take this log 3 base 2 as some x. Then we can simply write 1 plus 2x upon 2 plus x equals a. If we'll cross multiply, we'll write 1 plus 2x equals 2a plus ax, that is the value of x is 2a minus 1 upon 2 minus a. So from here we have got the value of this log, which is log 3 base 2. Now we need to simplify this expression, and this expression is log 16 to the base 24. Now we'll write this as log 2 to the power 4 base 2, and it'll be log 2 cube into 3. Now this is simply 4, and this is 3 plus log 3 base 2, which is nothing but x. So here we'll put the value of x. So we'll write this as 4 upon 3 plus 2a minus 1 upon 2 minus a. So we'll get 4 into 2 minus a, and it is 6 minus 3a plus 2a minus 1. So we'll get this as 8 minus 4a upon 5 minus a, and that's your option A. Now question number 3 is, we'll need to find number of solutions of this equation. Now what we'll do is we'll change everything in sine and cos. Then we can write this as sine x plus 1 equals 2 cos square x, and we can write cos square x is 1 plus sine x into 1 minus sine x. Now we'll cancel 1 plus sine x. So one of the solution that we'll get is sine x equals minus 1. Now in between 0 to pi, sin x cannot be minus 1, and also wherever sin x is minus 1, there's 10x won't be defined. So these points, they won't be in the domain of this question. So now what we are left with is 1 equals 2 minus 2 sine x, or the value of sine x is 1 by 2. Now number of solution of this equation in 0 to pi, it will be simply 2, and there'll be pi by 6 and 5 pi by 6, and that's your option C. Now question number 4 is, using only the digits 2, 3 and 9, how many 6-digit numbers can be formed which are divisible by 6? Now suppose we take 6-digit number in which we have used 2 n1 times, we have used 3 n2 times, and we have used 9 n3 times. Then this number, it will be divisible by 6 if 2n1 plus 3n2 plus 9n3, it is divisible by 3. And n1 is greater than or equal to 1, because that number, it should end with an even number. And also it's a 6-digit number, so n1 plus n2 plus n3, and this value, it must be equal to 6. Now this expression will be divisible by 3 when this 2n1 is divisible by 3. So we have two cases. Case 1, either the value of n1 is 3, or the second case, when the value of n1 is 6. Now if the value of n1 is 6, then we have all the 6 numbers as 2. So in this case, there is only one number which is possible. Now when n1 is 2, we have 3 2's, and then we have 3 other numbers which could be either 3 or 9, or their different combinations. Now since this number has to be divisible by 6, this number, it must end with 2. So this last place, it is already filled up with 2. So we have one choice for that. Now we are left with 2 2's. Now out of these 5 places, we have to select 2 places where we can place these 2 2's. So from 5 we have to select 2, and it can be done in 5C 2 ways. So suppose we select 2 places here. Now in the remaining 3 places, we have 2 choices each. Either we can put 3 or we can put 9. So here we have 2 choices. Here also we'll have 2 choices, and here also we'll have 2 choices. So it'll be simply 2 cube. So for n1 equals 3, there'll be 80 such numbers, and for n1 equals 6, there'll be only one such number. So total number of such numbers which can be found with 2, 3 and 9 and which are divisible by 6 will be 81, and that's your option C. Now question number 5 is, we need to solve this integral, which is say I, and it is integral from 1 upon 2014 to 2014 tan inverse x upon x dx. Now what we'll do is, we'll let x as 1 upon t, then dx will be minus 1 upon t square. So we can write this integral as 2014 to 1 upon 2014, and it'll be tan inverse 1 upon t minus 1 upon t square upon 1 upon t dt. Now here t and t will cancel. Now since there is a minus sign here, we'll change the limits from a to b to b to a. So we can write this as I equals 1 upon 2014 to 2014, and tan inverse 1 upon t is nothing but cot inverse t. So it'll be cot inverse t upon t dt. Now in definite integral, when the function is same and limits are same, we can change the variable. So we'll actually write this as 1 upon 2014 to 2014 cot inverse x upon x into dx. Now we'll add them both, then we can write 2i equals 1 upon 2014 to 2014. Now tan inverse x plus cot inverse x, it is an identity, and it will be equal to pi by 2, and then we'll have this x dx. So this I will be pi by 4, and then log x 1 upon 2014, and this is 2014. So it will be pi by 4, and then log 2014 square, which is pi by 2 into log 2014, and that's your option B. Now question number 6 is a light ray traveling along the line y equals 1 is reflected by a mirror placed along the line y equals x by 2. So we have this mirror which is y equals x by 2. Then we'll need to find equation of this reflected ray. Now equation of this line is y equals 1. Now first what we'll do is we'll find this point of intersection of this ray with the mirror. So we'll put y as 1, we'll get x as 2. So this point is 2, 1. Now one way of solving these reflection problems is take any point on the incident ray. We'll take this point and this point will be 0, 1, and then we'll find image of this point above this line. So we can write image of this point 0, 1 in the line x minus 2y equals 0. So it'll be x minus 0 upon 1, y minus 1 upon minus 2, and then minus 2, 0 minus 2 upon 5. So value of x will be 4 by 5 and value of y will be 1 minus 8 by 5 and there'll be minus 3 by 5. So reflection of this point above this line will be 4 by 5 and minus 3 by 5. Now we have 2 points on reflected ray. We can write its equation. So first we'll find its slope. Its slope will be 1 plus 3 by 5 upon 2 minus 4 by 5. So it'll be 8 by 5 and 6 by 5, which is 4 by 3. So equation of reflected ray will be y minus 1 equals 4 by 3 x minus 2. So it is 4x minus 3y equals 5, and that's your option A. Now question number 7 is for a real number x, let this box x denote the greatest integer less than or equal to x, then number of real solutions of this equation is. Now we are given mod of 2x minus greatest integer function of x is equal to 4. So we can write 2x minus greatest integer function of x is equal to plus or minus 4. Now we know that x is greatest integer function of x plus fractional part of x. So we can write this as greatest integer function of x plus 2 times fractional part of x, and it is equal to plus or minus 4. Now greatest function of x is an integer, plus minus 4 is an integer. It implies 2 times fraction part of x, it must also be an integer. So here we'll have 2 cases. Case 1 when either fractional part of x is 0, or case 2 when fractional part of x is 1 by 2. When fraction part of x is 0, then we'll get greatest integer function of x equals plus or minus 4. Now fraction part is 0 when x is an integer. So the only integral solution that we'll get from here is either the value of x is plus 4 or the value of x is minus 4. Now when fraction part of x is 1 by 2, then we can write greatest integer function of x, it will be plus minus 4 minus 1. So value of greatest integer function of x, it will be either 3 or it will be minus 5. Now x is greatest integer function of x plus fractional part of x. So here we'll get either x as 3 plus 1 by 2, which is 7 by 2, or we'll get this as minus 5 plus 1 by 2, which is minus 9 by 2. So total number of real solutions for this equation will be simply 4, and that's your option D. Now here the question is, what is the ratio of areas of regular pentagon inscribed inside and circumscribed around a given circle? So if we have a given circle and we have a regular pentagon inscribed inside it, then this angle, it is 72 degrees. This is radius r. This is radius r. In that case, area of pentagon inscribed inside this circle, it will be 5 into 1 by 2 r square sine theta, and it is sine 72 degrees. Now if we consider a pentagon which lies outside. Now here, this length, it is say L. And this is the radius R. This is 90. This angle will be 36 degrees. Now we can write L cos 36. It is R. Then L is R by cos 36. Now once we have this L and we have this angle, we can write area of pentagon which is inscribed outside will be 5 into 1 by 2 L square sine 72 degrees. So it will be 5 by 2 and L square is R square upon cos square 36 sine 72 degrees. Now we'll take this ratio, then AI upon AO will be, now this 5 by 2 R square sine 72 will cancel. We'll get cos square 36 degrees, and that's your option B. Now question number 9 is, let Z1 and Z2 be non-zero complex numbers satisfying mod of Z1 plus Z2, and it is equal to mod of Z1 minus Z2. Then circumcenter of triangle with points Z1, Z2 in origin as its vertices is given by. Now if we look at this expression which is mod of Z1 plus Z2 equals mod of Z1 minus Z2, then we clearly know that if Z1 and Z2 are vertices of a parallelogram, then one of the diagonal length is mod of Z1 plus Z2 and the length of other diagonal is mod of Z1 minus Z2. So in this case, we have a parallelogram in which length of the diagonal is equal, and length of the diagonal is equal in case of parallelogram if and only if that parallelogram is a rectangle. So origin Z1 and Z2, they have an angle 90 degrees in between them. Now a circle passing through O Z1 and Z2. Now this angle is 90, so that means this Z1 Z2, it is the diameter of the circle. So the circumcenter of this circle will be midpoint of hypotenuse, and that will be Z1 plus Z2 by 2, and that's your option C. Now here the question is, in how many ways can 20 identical chocolates be distributed among 8 students so that each student gets at least one chocolate and exactly 2 students get at least 2 chocolates each? Now when at first I solved this question, I thought this question was about selecting 2 students which will get 2 or more chocolates, and the remaining other students, they'll get at least 1 chocolate. But by doing so, I have missed this keyword exactly 2 students, and it was brought to my notice by one of the viewer, Sayan Kumar Mukhopadhyay. And then I realized there is a catch in the problem. It says exactly 2 students get at least 2 chocolates each. So there'll be exactly 2 students who will get 2 or more chocolates. So that means remaining 6 students should get less than 2 chocolates. Now they'll have at least 1 and they cannot have 2 or more. It simply means that the remaining 6 students will get 1 chocolate each. Now the problem reduces to first selecting 2 students who will get at least 2 chocolates each. So out of these 8 students, we can select these 2 students in 8C 2 ways. Now suppose these 2 students are A1 and A2. Now for remaining 6 students, we have to give them 1 chocolate each, and since the chocolates are identical, it can be done in only one way. Now we have to distribute remaining 20 minus 6, that is 14 chocolates in between A1 and A2. Suppose A1 gets X chocolate and A2 gets Y chocolates, then X plus Y, it should be 14, where X is greater than or equal to 2 and Y is also greater than or equal to 2. Now what we'll do is we'll replace X with 2 plus X dash and Y with 2 plus Y dash. We can write this equation as X dash plus Y dash equals 10, where X dash and Y dash, it is greater than or equal to 0. So what we need is number of non-negative integral solutions of this equation. So number of non-negative integral solutions is given by n plus r minus 1, c r minus 1, and there will be 11c1, which is simply 11. So the remaining 14 chocolates, they can be distributed among the selected 2 students in 11 ways. So answer to this question is 8C2 into 11. Now what's 8C2? 8C2 is 28 into 11. So it'll be 28 and 28, which is 308, and that's your option A. Now question number 11 is, 2 vertices of a square lie on a circle of radius r and the other 2 vertices lie on a tangent to the circle. Then each side of the square is, so we have a circle and then we have a tangent to the circle and then we have the square whose 2 sides are on the tangent and 2 sides are on this circle. Now let this be center of circle. Now this is r, this is also radius r, and say this angle is theta. Now we can find length of this side. Length of this side will be r plus r cos theta. So we can write r plus r cos theta, and it will be equal to length of this side, which is 2r sin theta. So we can write 1 plus cos theta equals 2 sin theta. Now we'll square, we'll write 1 plus cos theta whole square, and L be 4, and sin square theta is 1 minus cos square theta. Now one of the result that we'll get is 1 plus cos theta equals 0. That is cos theta equals minus 1, which will make this angle pi, which doesn't make any sense. So the result that we'll get here is 1 plus cos theta, and L be equal to 4 minus 4 cos theta. So here the value of cos theta will be 3 by 5. Now we need to find length of each side of the square. So length of this side is r 1 plus cos theta. So it will be r and then 1 plus 3 by 5. Length of side of square will be 8r by 5, and that's your option D. Now question number 12 is, let P be a set of all numbers obtained by multiplying 5 distinct integers between 1 to 100. What is the largest integer n such that 2 to the power n divides at least one element of P? Now we know that we can write any number as 2 to the power n, 3 to the power m, 5 to the power r. So this is how we can express any number. Now we have to select 5 such numbers so that they have highest possible values for 2 to the power n. So we'll start with our first number, and that number will be 2 to the power 6. And 2 to the power 6 is 64. So between 1 to 100, the highest possible power of 2 is 2 to the power 6, and we'll get this highest possible power when the number is 64. So one of the number will be 64, and that is 2 to the power 6. Now the next possible number will be 2 to the power 5, and that is 32. Now with 32 we can have either 1 into 2 to the power 5, which makes it 32. We cannot have 2 into 32, then it will become 64. Next we'll have 3 into 2 to the power 5. So these are other two numbers which are possible. Now 4 into 2 to the power 5 will be greater than 100. So we are not considering that. And then finally, after 2 to the power 5, we have 2 to the power 4. So we'll take 1 into 2 to the power 4. Now 2 into 2 to the power 4 will be 2 to the power 5. And then we'll take 3 into 2 to the power 4. So these are the highest powers possible for any numbers from 1 to 100, so that it is divisible by 2 to the power n. Now we'll multiply all these numbers. The power of 2 that we'll get is 6 plus 5 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4, and that will be 2 to the power 24. So the largest integer n such that 2 to the power n divides at least one element of P is 24, and that's your option C. Now question number 13 is, consider a function f where a, b, c, d are real numbers and a greater than 0. If f is strictly increasing, then this function g, which is f dash minus f double dash plus f triple dash, is which of the following options? Now given that this function f is ax cube plus bx square plus cx plus d, and it is strictly increasing. It is strictly increasing if f dash x, which is 3ax square plus 2bx plus c, it is greater than 0 for all X belongs to R. Now it is a quadratic expression with A greater than 0. So a quadratic expression is always positive if D is less than 0 and A is greater than 0. The condition that we'll have is D is less than 0. So we'll get 4B square minus 12AC is less than 0. That is B square minus 3AC. It should be less than 0. Now we'll find f double dash x will be 6ax plus 2b, and then f triple dash x will be 6a. Now gx is f dash minus f double dash plus f triple dash. So it will be 3ax square plus 2bx plus c, and then minus 6ax minus 2b, and then plus 6a. So we can write this gx as 3ax square plus 2 into b minus 3ax plus c minus 2b plus 6a. Now this again is a quadratic expression with a greater than 0. So in order to find nature of this quadratic expression, again we'll write its discriminant d, and d will be 4 b minus 3a whole square minus 4 3a c minus 2b plus 6a. Now we'll take this 4 common, and then we'll get b square plus 9a square minus 6ab minus 3ac plus 6ab minus 18a square. Now 6ab will cancel, so we'll get this as 4 b square minus 3ac, and then minus 9a square. Now b square minus 3ac, it is less than 0, and minus 9a square is also less than 0. So here d is less than 0. So for gx also, a is positive and d is negative. So that means gx is always positive. So this gx will be always positive. So answer to this question will be, this gx will be positive for all x belongs to R, and that's your option B. Now question number 14 is, let A be a set of all points such that area of triangle formed by HK 5632 is 12, and what is the least possible length of a line segment joining origin to a point in A. Now we know that area of a triangle is given by 1 by 2 and then HK1 5 6 1 3 2 and 1, and it should be equal to plus or minus 12. So we can write 6 minus 2 4, so it will be 4h minus 2k minus 8, and it will be plus or minus 24. So we can write 2h minus k minus 4 equals plus or minus 12. So we have two cases. Case 1, either this point it will lie on 2h minus k minus 16 equals 0, or 2h minus k plus 8 equals 0. So now we have two parallel lines, and it says what is the least possible length of line segment joining 0 0 to this point A. So this length will be least at a perpendicular distance from origin. So we'll find perpendicular distance from origin. For this case it will be 16 upon under root 5, and for this case it will be 8 upon under root 5. Now the least possible length out of these two is 8 by root 5, and that's your option B. Now question number 15 is, P denotes the set of all numbers which are of the form A into B into C, such that A square plus B square is equal to C square, and 3 divides C. Now these A, B and C, they are Pythagorean triplets. Now if we consider any Pythagorean triplet, say 3, 4 and 5, then we can write 3 square plus 4 square equals 5 square. Or we can write 12 square plus 5 square equals 13 square. Now this last number C, it will be a multiple of 3 if and only if we multiply all these three numbers with 3. So from this 3, 4 and 5, we'll get 9, 12 and 15. From 12, 5 and 13, we'll get 36, 15 and 39. So this last number C, it can only be divisible by 3 if all these three they are divisible by 3. So that means this A, it should be of the form sum 3L, B should be of the form sum 3M, and C should be of the form sum 3N, where L square plus M square, it must be equal to N square. Now, if we'll also look at this condition when L square plus M square is equal to N square, then for any Pythagorean triplets, out of these L and M, at least one is a multiple of 3. So if we multiply ABC, we write 3 cube into LMN, and out of L and M, at least one of them is a multiple of 4. So this product ABC, it will have 3 to the power 4 and then some number k. So the largest integer n such that 3 to the power n divides every element of P is 4, and that's your option D. Now question number 16 is, let A0 be 5, then for each I equals 1, define the set AI as A I minus 1 union A I minus 1. Now for A1, it'll be A0 union this set A0. Now A0 is 5 union this set 5. Now 5 is included in every subset. So here we can simply write A1 as this set 5. Now A2 will be A1 union this set A1. So it will be simply 5 union set of 5. So it will be 5 and set 5, and then A3, it will be 5 set 5 union set of 5 and set 5. So it will be 5 set 5 and set of 5 and set 5, and which is your option D. Now question number 17 is, let fx equals 1 upon x minus 2, then graph of functions f and f inverse intersected. Now we know that graph of f and f inverse, they are mirror image of each other about y equals x line. So points of intersection of f and f inverse, they lie on y equals x line. There are some exceptions also, but this case it is a fairly simple problem. So here, if we have to find point of intersection of f and f inverse, we can simply find point of intersection of fx equals x. So what we'll do is we'll simply put 1 upon x minus 2 equals x, and it'll be x square minus 2x equals 1. We'll add 1 both sides. So it'll be x minus 1 square equals 2. So x equals 1 plus minus root 2. And since we are talking about y equals x line, x and y, they'll be same. So it'll be 1 plus root 2, 1 plus root 2, and 1 minus root 2, and 1 minus root 2. And that's your option A. Now question number 18 is, let n be numbers such that whenever you take n consecutive positive integers, then at least one of them is co-prime to 374. What is the smallest possible value of n? Now what we'll do is, first we'll find number of n consecutive positive integers such that none of them is co-prime to 374, and this 374 is actually 2 into 11 into 17. So we have to find the maximum possible value of n, so that whenever we take n consecutive positive integers, then all of them, they should have a common factor to 374. That is, they should have at least one of 2, 11 or 17. Now here for this n, we are not talking about any specific set of n. Here talking about whenever we take n consecutive positive integers, then it should be possible. Now we know that any even number cannot be co-prime to this 374 because they'll always have this 2 common. So if we'll take any numbers which start with even, then all these 3 numbers, they'll have a common factor with 374. Now here we have to choose odd numbers such that these odd numbers are divisible by either 11 or 17. Now we need to find out whether there exist 2 odd numbers such that one of them is a multiple of 11 and the other one is a multiple of 17. And these numbers, they do exist. Say for example, if we take 118, 119, 120, 121 and 122. Now all these three numbers, they are even, so they cannot be co-prime with 374. This 119, it is 17 into 7 and 121 is 11 into 11. So out of all these five numbers, none of them is co-prime to 374. The maximum number of n that we can have so that none of them is co-prime to 374 is 5. Now we need to find at least one of them is co-prime to 374. Then that number has to be one more than this value 5. So value of n here is 6 and that's your option C. Now question number 19 is, let A1, A2, A18 be vertices of regular polygon with 18 sides. Then how many of the triangles are isosceles but not equilateral? Now if we consider the points on a circle, then this is say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. Now we need to find how many triangles are possible which are isosceles but not equilateral. So what we'll do is, first we'll select any one vertex of the triangle. So out of these 18 points, we'll select any one vertex. Suppose we have selected this vertex 1. Now with this point 1, isosceles triangle can only be formed if we choose either 2, 3 or 4, 5 or 6, 7 or 8, 9 and it goes up to 16 and 17. So how many pairs we have? We have 8 pairs. When we'll choose any one line, then it will always form an isosceles triangle. But out of these 8 lines, there'll be this one line which will form an equilateral triangle. So we want isosceles which are not equilateral. So from these 8, we'll subtract 1. So total number of triangles which are isosceles but not equilateral will be 18C1 into 7 and that'll be 18 into 7 and that is 126 and that's your option C. Now question number 20 is, limit x tends to 0, sin x to the power alpha upon x, it exists only when which of the following option is correct. Now for alpha less than 0, this sin x will be in the denominator, then we'll get 1 upon infinite and for that case, we won't get any result. So for alpha greater than 0, we'll have this limit in the form 0 upon 0. Now we'll use L'Hopital's rule. We can write limit x tends to 0, alpha sine alpha minus 1x into cos x upon 1. So it'll be alpha 0 to the power alpha minus 1 and then cos alpha will be 1. Now this limit will exist when alpha minus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. So this limit will exist only when alpha is greater than or equal to 1 and that's your option A. Now question number 21 is, consider the region R where x square plus y square is less than or equal to 100. So it represents a circle whose center is at origin and radius is 10 units. So this is 10, center at 0 and this is also 10. And then we have this condition that sine x plus y is greater than 0. Now sine, it is positive when x lies between 0 and pi. So here we'll get x plus y should lie between 0 and pi. Now we can generalize it as 2n pi is less than x plus y is less than 2n plus 1 pi. So value of x plus y should lie between 2n pi to 2n plus 1 pi. Now the first set that we'll get is between 0 and pi. So we'll draw this line, then it'll be x plus y equals 0 and then x plus y equals pi. So this area, and then between pi and 2 pi, we won't have any graph. Then between 2 pi and 3 pi, we'll have this condition. So actually what I'll do is I'll take up this graph from Desmos and then I'll plot the region. So this is x plus y equals 0 and this is x plus y equals pi. So we are talking about this region. And then this is 2 pi and 3 pi. So we'll have this region, and then from 4 pi onwards, we'll have this region. Now here also, we'll have this region, and then we'll have this region. So we have to find the area of this shaded region. Now it looks very complicated, but if we look at it, this region, it exactly fits into this region, and this other region fits into this other region. So the area which we are looking for is actually area of this half circle. So area of this shaded region will be simply 1 by 2 into pi r square, which is pi into 10 square, and it is nothing but 50 pi, and that's your option B. Now question number 22 is, consider a cyclic trapezium whose circumcenter is on one of the sides. If ratio of two parallel sides is 1:4, then what is the ratio of sum of two oblique sides to the longer parallel side? So we have this circle, and then we have this trapezium whose one of the side is diameter. Let this be center, and this is radius r, and say this is A, B, C, D. Now we'll need to find this length L. Now ratio of CD upon AB, it is given as 1:4. Now AB is 2r, so we can write CD as r by 2. So this length will be r by 2, and this length will be simply r by 4. And this is radius r. Then we can find this distance d. So this d square, it will be r square minus r square by 16. So it will be 15 r square by 16. Now with this d, and we know that this distance will be r minus r by 4. So it will be 3r by 4. So we can write L square as d square plus 9r square by 16. So it will be 15r square by 16 plus 9r square by 16, and that will be 24r square by 16, which is 3r square by 2. So this length L will be root 3 by 2 r. Now it says we need to find ratio of sum of two oblique sides to the longer parallel side. So that means we need to find AD plus BC upon AB. Now AD plus BC is 2L and AB is simply 2R. So we just need to find the value of L upon R, and which is nothing but under root 3 by 2, and that's your option A. Now question number 23 is, consider this function for x greater than 0. Then we need to find monotonicity of this function. Now what we'll do is, we'll take this as y, and y is greater than 0. Now we can write this as under root y equals log 4 plus root 2 into root x upon x. Now we'll take this antilog. We'll write e to the power under root y 4 upon x plus root 2 x to the power and minus 1 by 2. Now we'll differentiate. We'll get e to the power under root of y 1 upon 2 root y into dy by dx will be minus 4 upon x square, and then minus 1 upon root 2 x to the power minus 3 by 2. So we can write dy by dx as 2 into log 4 plus root 2x upon x into 4 plus root 2x upon x, and then minus 4 upon x square minus 1 by root 2 x to the power minus 3 by 2. Now this is positive as x is greater than 0. This is always negative. So just we need to know whether there is a sign change for this expression. Now we know that log function changes sign at x equal to 1. So we have to find whether we have any real solution of this equation, which is 4 plus root 2x upon x equals 1. So we'll multiply with 2 and divide by 2, and then we'll let 2x as some t square. So we'll get 4 plus t upon t square equals 1 by 2. So it'll be t square minus 2t minus 8 equals 0. So it'll be t minus 4 and t plus 2 equals 0. So value of t is 4 or value of t is minus 2. Now we have taken under root of t square as t. So that means t should be positive. So we won't consider t equals minus 2. So the only option that we have here is t equals 4. And if we'll put t equals 4, we'll get x equals 8. So this function, it changes sign at x equals 8. So between 0 and 8, this value will be negative, and from 8 to infinite, this value will be positive. So this function, it decreases up to some point and then increases after that, and that's your option A. Now question number 24 is, what is the number of ordered pairs ABC, where ABC are positive integers, not necessarily distinct, such that A into B into C is 1000. So we can write ABC as 2 cube into 5 cube. Now this A, let it be of the form 2 to the power x1, 5 to the power y1. Let B be 2 to the power x2, 5 to the power y2, and C be 2 to the power x3 into 5 to the power y3. Now we'll multiply them, then A into B into C will be 2 to the power x1 plus x2 plus x3 into 5 to the power y1 plus y2 plus y3, and it will be equal to 2 cube into 5 cube. Now we'll compare, we'll get these two conditions. X1 plus x2 plus x3 equals 3, and y1 plus y2 plus y3 equals 3. Now we have to find number of non-negative integral solutions. So number of non-negative integral solutions is given by 3 plus 3 minus 1, C3 minus 1, which is 5C2, and for this also it will be 5C2. So number of such triplets will be 5C2 into 5C2, and which is 10 into 10, and that is 100, and that's your option B. Now question number 25 is, we are given this function such that f3 equals 3 times f dash 3 and it is a positive number. Then this limit x tends to infinite, f3 plus 3 upon x upon f3 to the power x is. Now if we look at this form is 1 to the power infinite form. And for 1 to the power infinite form, we have this shortcut that we can express it as e to the power, this limit x tends to infinite, gx into fx minus 1. So it will be f 3 plus 3 upon x upon f3 minus 1. So we can write this limit as e to the power limit x tends to infinite, f 3 plus 3 upon x minus f3 upon f3 1 by x. Now what we will also do is we'll multiply by 3 and divide by 3. Now this is nothing but this is f a plus h minus fa upon h, and that is nothing but derivative of this function at a. So we can write this as e, and it'll be 3 into f dash 3 by f3. Now in the question it says 3 into f dash 3 by f3 is 1. So this value, it is equal to e to the power 1, which is e. So this limit, it exists and is equal to e, and that's your option B. Now question number 26 is a standard complex number question. We need to find maximum possible value of mod z if z minus 1 upon z modulus is equal to 2. Now what we do is we can write mod of z as mod z minus 1 upon z plus 1 upon z, and we know that this is always less than or equal to z minus 1 upon z plus 1 upon mod z. Now it is given that z plus 1 upon z is 2. So we'll take this as 2. So we can write mod of z minus 1 upon mod of z is less than or equal to 2, or mod of z square minus 2 mod z minus 1 is less than or equal to 0. Now we'll add 1 and subtract 1. Then we can write mod of z minus 1 square is less than or equal to 2, or mod of z minus 1 is less than or equal to root 2. So from here we can say mod of z is less than or equal to 1 plus root 2. So the maximum possible value of mod z is 1 plus root 2, and that's your option D. Now question number 27 is, we need to find minimum value of this expression, say E, and which is mod sin x plus cos x plus tan x plus cosec x plus secant x plus cot x. Now what we'll do is we can write this as sin x plus cos x, and then we'll take tan and cot together and we'll change it in sin and cos. It'll be sin x upon cos x plus cos x upon sin x, and it'll be simply 1 upon sin x into cos x. And in the same way, if we'll take this cosec x and secant x, then it'll be 1 upon sin x plus 1 upon cos x, and then we can simplify it as sin x plus cos x upon sin x into cos x. Now what we'll do is we'll let sin x plus cos x as t, and we'll square it. We'll get sin square x plus cos square x, which is 1, and into 2 sin x into cos x will be t square. So we can write sin x into cos x as t square minus 1 by 2. Now we can write this expression e in terms of t. So it will be t plus, and it will be 2 upon t square minus 1, and then plus t upon t square minus 1, and then it will be simply 2. Now we can write this as t square minus 1, and it will be t cube minus t plus 2 plus 2t, which is t cube plus t plus 2 upon t square minus 1. Now what we'll do is we'll subtract t and we'll add t. Then we can write this as t into t square minus 1 plus 2 t plus 1 upon t square minus 1. So we can simplify this as t plus 2 upon t minus 1. Now we need to find minimum value of this expression e. And for minimum value of e, we will find minimum value of t plus 2 upon t minus 1. So let it be ft, which is t plus 2 upon t minus 1. Then f dash t will be 1 minus 2 upon t minus 1 square equals 0. We'll get t minus 1 equals plus or minus root 2. Value of t is 1 plus minus root 2. Now we'll need to find absolute minimum of this function. So we'll take two cases. Case 1, when the value of t is 1 plus root 2. In that case, e will be t, which is 1 plus root 2 and 2 upon root 2, which is 1 plus 2 root 2. And we'll take the second case when t is 1 minus root 2. In that case, this e will be 1 minus root 2 and then plus 2 upon minus root 2, and there will be 1 minus 2 root 2 mod. Out of these two, the smaller value is 2 root 2 minus 1. So the minimum value of this expression, sin x plus cos x plus tan x plus cot x plus cosec x plus secant x, will be 2 root 2 minus 1, and that's your option B. Now question number 28 is, for any function f from x to y, any subset A of y, define f inverse of A as x belongs to x such that fx belongs to A. And AC denote the complement of A in y. Now for two subsets A1 and A2 of y, consider the following statements, and then we have to tell which of the two statements are always true. Now we'll solve this question using counter examples. Suppose we have the set x and set y. Now suppose there are 5 elements in set x, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then we have 4 elements in set y, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now let 1 be mapped to 1, 2 be mapped to 2, 3 be mapped to 2, 4 be mapped to 3 and 5 be mapped to 4. Now suppose we choose this set 1, 2 as A1 and this set 2, 3 as A2. Now what is A1 complement? A1 complement will be 3, 4 and A2 complement will be 1, 4. Now we'll take A1 complement intersection A2 complement. It will be simply 4, and f inverse of A1 complement intersection A2 complement will be simply 5. That's your left hand side for this first expression. Now right hand side, it will be f inverse of A1. Now what is f inverse of A1? Now f inverse of A1 is 1, 2 and 3. And I will take complement of f inverse A1. It will be 4 and 5. And the same way, if we'll take f inverse of A2, f inverse of A2 will be 2, 3, 4, and f inverse of A2 complement will be 1 and 5. Now we'll take union of both. F inverse A1 complement union F inverse A2 complement. We'll get this as 1, 4 and 5, and which is not equal to the set on the left hand side. So this first condition, it is not necessarily true always. I think it will be true when A1 is equal to A2. Now for the second one, when it says F inverse A1 equals F inverse A2, then A1 equals A2, we'll consider again a function F defined on x to y. Suppose x has two elements 1 and 2 and y is set of all real numbers, then it'll have 0 and all other numbers. Now we have defined this set such that 1 is mapped to 0 and 2 is also mapped to 0. Now let us consider A1 as 0, 1 and A2 as 0, 2. Now F inverse A1, now there is no image for 1. So for 0 we'll have this image 1, 2, and F inverse A2 also, there is no image for 2. For 0 we'll have 1 and 2. So here in this case F inverse A1 is equal to F inverse A2, but A1 is not equal to A2. So the second one also is not necessarily always true. So answer is neither 1 nor 2 is always true. That's your option D. Now question number 29 is, let f be a function such that f double dash x exists and f double dash x is greater than 0. So we have this function which is always opening upwards. Then in between A and B, it says there's a point C, and let AC denote the area of region bounded by y equals fx and tangent to the graph of f at x equals c. So we have any point C in between A and B, and if we draw a tangent at C, then AC denotes this area. Now we can write equation of this tangent at C. So this point, it will be C comma FC, and slope of derivative will be f dash c. We can write this equation as y minus fc equals f dash c into x minus c, that is y equals fc plus f dash c into x minus c. Now we have to write this area. This area as a function of c will be this integral from a to b, then upper curve minus lower curve. Upper curve is y equals fx minus lower curve is this y. Y is fc minus f dash c x minus c into dx. Now this integral on the right, it is a function of c. So what we'll do is we'll find del a by del c. So it will be a to b. Now this is 0. Now this is f dash c minus f dash c and minus 1, and then minus f double dash c into x minus c into dx. Now this f dash c will cancel. So we can write del a upon del c as minus from a to b f double dash c into x minus c dx, and we'll take f double dash c out, then it'll be x minus c whole square upon 2 from a to b. So it'll be minus f double dash c, and then we'll have b minus c square upon 2 minus a minus c square upon 2. Now we'll put it equals to 0. We'll get our critical point, and our critical point will be b square plus c square minus 2bc minus a square minus c square plus 2ac equals 0. The c square will get cancelled. So here we'll get value of c as a plus b by 2. So this area, it'll have its critical point when the value of c is a plus b by 2. Now we have to find whether this area will be minimum or maximum at this point. Now we look at the graph. Then if we draw tangent at A, we have this area. At B also, we'll have this area. So this area at C, it should be the minimum value. Then it has to be this option A, which is AC attained its minimum at C equals 1 by 2 a plus b for any such f. And finally, this question number 30 is, in a triangle ABC, lines BP and BQ trisect angle ABC, and lines CM and CN, they trisect ACB. Let BP and CM intersect at X and BQ and CN intersect at Y. If ABC is 45 and ACB is 75, then angle BXY is. Now, angle ABC is 45. So this is 15, this is 15, and this is also 15. And here it is 25, 25, and 25. Now we look at this triangle BXC, then BY is angle bisector of angle XBC, and CY is angle bisector of XCB. So this point Y is point of intersection of two angle bisectors. That means this Y is in center, and which makes this line XY as angle bisector of BXC. So these two angles, they are equal. Now in this triangle BXC, this angle it is 30 and this angle it is 50. So this angle BXC, it will be 180 minus 80 and there will be 100. And since this angle BXY is half this angle of BXC, so this angle will be simply 50 degrees, and that's your option C.